Now, in this lesson, I want to talk to you about one of the most fundamental widgets that we're going to be using all the time to lay out our apps. And that is a container widget. So a container widget is like a multi-purpose box. It's essentially just a layout box. You can position it on the canvas or on the screen, and then you can give it a child to display, such as an image, or you can give it a text, or you can give it a button, and so on. And layout widgets are split by single child widgets and multi-child widgets. So a single child widget is a widget where you can only input one child, so like a text or an image or a button. And the multi-child widget is a widget where you can place a lot of different widgets, such as 5 images, a piece of text, and so on. And we've already explored some of the multi-child widgets. So the most common single widget is probably going to be this container right here. And here's how you can add and modify a container. So you go to the page, or you can go to the widget tree, and you can add a container here. Great. So what can you do with a container? Well, you can style it, and there are so many styling options here. Here's a quick overview. So you can do border radius, border color. You have 2 different ways to drop shadows. They're called box shadows or elevation. You can use gradients or background images. So if you're looking to style a section or a card or any other content, wrap it in a container. So let's go ahead and add a piece of text in our container and call it hello world. That works. And let's preview that and see how it looks. Now, at the moment, you can see that our piece of text is kind of hidden a little bit by the bezel of our iPhone screen and Android. So depending on which device you are using, it may also have a notch like this, or things are just pushed to the top. So how do we keep our content that we put on the screen safe from all these bordering elements, like pushing it to the top or being behind this a little notch here? Sometimes you have the time, network, and stuff like that. Well, FlutterFlow actually comes with a really simple feature that does exactly this. So it's called the safe area. So I'm going to go ahead on the page and switch on the safe area. So as soon as I review it, you'll see that my container moves in the safe area. And now it only takes up the space where it's visible to the user. So whenever you are creating something for the user interface that you don't want to bleed all the way to the edges, but instead you want it to be fully visible to the user, then you're going to be using your safe area. Well, what else can a container do? So if we go ahead and add a new property, so you're going to check the height, so you can resize the container. Right now I've selected the text. Let me just select the container right here. And if you go into the properties, you can see that the width is 100 and the height is 100. So we can actually change the size of this. Sometimes you can make it circle, so it has this property, or you can make it square. So I'm going to change it 50 by 50. Good. So you can change the size of your container. Let me just put it back to 100, because this way I can fully see my text inside. And we have a beautiful square container with a single child which says hello world. Now, what if I wanted my container to be a little bit offset from the edges of the screen? Well, we have a property for that called padding. So if you activate uniform padding right here, you can just write, for example, 20, and it's going to give it a padding from left, top, on the right, and the bottom. And if you deactivate this, you can decide to give it a single padding. So let's say on the left you want it to be 20, and on the top you want it to be 20. Great. What if I wanted the child of the container to be a little bit more also offset from the edge of the container? Then in this case, you wouldn't be using the container padding itself. right? But you'll be using the childs. So if I press in the childs and let's say we give it let's say we give it a uniform padding and say 12. Now the child is actually moved away from the edges of the container and it's nicely centered in the middle. Remember that a container is actually a single child widget, so it cannot contain more than one widget. So if I were to come over here and try to, let's say, add a button, so this is going to tell me I'm about to replace the widget inside of this container. So if I press replace, it's actually going to replace the text by the button. But if I want to have more children inside a widget, then I'm going to have to actually accept and wrap it into a column or something like that. So if I add the button, it's going to suggest, do you want to wrap it? So I can wrap it in a column, in a row, or in a stack. And remember, these are now multi-child widgets. Alright, so that's some of the basics of containers. And remember that our end goal is actually to build something like this kind of, Airbnb replica where you can see uploaded properties, you can see the price per night, the location, how far it is from you, and the rating. We also have a quick search bar here. So by the look of this, we can actually see that this is a column, right? Because things are stacked from top to bottom. So we're going to go ahead and actually try to create the search bar first. So if we jump into FlutterFlow, we go to the container, but this is just a name I gave the page. So we go to the page and add a widget. So we're going to add a column first. So that is added. Inside the column, we're going to go ahead and add a row. Because this is a row, you can see that things are stacked from left to right or next to each other. So the first thing that we're going to add inside the row is going to be an icon. Going to search for icon, going to add that, and the icon that you want. So if you want to edit the icon, still it's a widget, so you select it and then you go into the property. So you're going to change the icon that you want to use. So let's search for a magnifying glass, and that looks good. On top of that, we're going to add a search bar, right, or an input. So an input is another widget. We're going to search for it, but it's called text field in FlutterFlow. So we're going to add that as well. After adding the input, we're going to go ahead and add another icon. So this is going to be our filtering icon. So I'm going to add that as well. And then search for the icon that I want. So it's called a tune rounded, looks well. But you can see that my input actually has a border on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. So I'm going to select it and go into the property panel and look for the border or the outline. I'm going to scroll down, input border type. So I'm going to say none. Okay, that looks good, but it's very much stuck to the left and the right. So let's add some padding to the row. So we're going to go ahead, select the row, and then on the left, let's say 12 pixels, right? 12 pixels as well. That looks okay. So in the app that you're trying to achieve, or at least the designs that you're trying to achieve, we can see that the search bar has some beautiful borders here. It also has like this little hovering effect, even though on mobile there's no hover, but there's a pressing effect. So we're going to add and try to add this one as well. So there's one thing about rows or columns is that it doesn't allow us to actually style it. So if you select it and you go into the property, you cannot see a way to add a background, add some borders and whatnot. So what are we gonna do now? This means that we have to actually wrap this widget into another widget. And what do we use for such? A container. All right, so we're going to press Command B and wrap it inside a container. Boom. And that was easy. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can actually increase the height because this looks smaller. We're going to select the container, scroll down a little bit, and inside the height, we're going to say, let's try 60. That looks good. So we're going to add some border radius as well. So the border radius is another property of a container or another styling property of a container. So I'm going to select the container and go to the border radius, and I'm going to say make it uniform. That looks good. 100 is fine, but we can actually not see what we're doing. I'm gonna go ahead and actually give it some shadow so that you can start seeing it. So I'm going to select the container and actually first give it a background color of, let's say, white, and then it's fine. So it's telling me that I already have that color in my theme. So I'm going to select no and actually go and select it. I'm going to go ahead and select the box shadow right here. So this is what's going to give it a little effect like this beautiful, shadow color. So I'm going to select that and play around with the color. Let's say alternate, and let's preview this. All right, this is looking good, but there's more on the bottom than on the top. So let's try and fix that. I'm going to go ahead again on the container and go to the box shadow and say, all right, yeah, spread it around so that it can be everywhere. Let's say maybe 2, and that should look good. All right, but right now our container is also far left and far right, and this doesn't look good. So we'll go ahead and also give it some padding. So let's say 20 left, right, and maybe top, so that you can see those shadows. Good. Maybe I put too much on top. Maybe just 6 would suffice. Good. All right, so now we need to achieve this effect, this hover effect right here. And this icon actually looks like it also has, a radius, or it has some border. So we're gonna go ahead and try to achieve that as well. Maybe let's change the type of the icon and say an icon button, something that you can press on. So we're gonna search icon button, select that, beautiful, and go ahead and change the icon type. This is the one we had, and you can also style this icon so the border gonna be same, alternate, fill color gonna be white, so secondary background, and you can select this however you want. And then we're gonna go ahead and add some hover style. So check on that, and then whenever it's hovered, we're going to fill the color with alternate as well, just mild. And we're gonna go ahead and actually change this label here to search listings, and that I think should look exactly like what you're trying to achieve. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh. I'm gonna go back a little bit. Beautiful. So now if I hover on top of it, you can see that it changes the color, and this looks really good. So in the next lesson, we're going to be learning how to connect our Firebase or our database so that you can be able to pull data from the database and display it in our application. We're also going to be learning about navigations. So for example, if you press on this right here, it should take you to the product page, right, or the description page. So for that and more, I'll catch you in the next one.